here at Fy Nyth. Today I wanted to talk to you about toilets. Now, if you're new to my channel, I live in a tiny house on wheels. I live off-grid, as in with no physical connection to public utilities, in the western mountains. And as part of that, I use a composting toilet. If you're totally unfamiliar with what I use right now, check out my appliance and utilities playlist on the channel homepage. And there's several videos about my toilet and how it works and emptying the liquids and emptying the solids and all that. So I'm not going to recover all those details here, but if you got questions, go check that out. But what I want to talk about today is a really easy way to save $1,000 if you're building a tiny house, a small dwelling of any kind, or just going with a composting toilet. When I first was going tiny and thinking about that, the idea of a composting toilet, it kind of grossed me out, I'll be honest. You've got a big bucket of poop sitting in your house, isn't that going to stink all the time? I was worried about that. What helped me personally get really comfortable with the idea of trying it was actually watching a bunch of videos and reading stuff from an amazing couple called Gone with the Winds. They travel full-time in an RV, and they use a composting toilet because they do a lot of boondocking or dry camping. And they have some very detailed info, probably still the best out there that I know of, on the Nature's Head composting toilet in particular, which is what I have. And just seeing how they use theirs and hearing what they said about it and stuff did help me be comfortable with the idea. Got my tiny house. I'm into my 4th year here now. I've been using my Nature's Head the whole time. I am very content with it. Now, they are not cheap, and there's several other brands. There's Sunmar toilets, there's separate toilets. I've not personally used any of those, so I can't give you a good review of those. I have friends who have used them. I've heard pros and cons about them. It does seem like, of the commercial composting toilets, that Nature's Head is, from my personal observation, the most popular and generally the most well-liked. So, I don't have any regrets about having one. But also, if you've been following my journey, you know that toward the end of last year, I bought a new homestead where eventually this setup will be moving full time. And I've been back and forth a few times already doing projects here and there. The new place is mostly bare land. There's a pole barn and such on there, but there's not any house infrastructure, which is fine because I can move this one there. But in the meantime, while I'm still living here until I move there, when you're working on projects, it's nice to have a place, especially if you're female, sometimes to sit down to pee, and male or female if you've got to take a dump. So a friend helped me build this little super simple, inexpensive. I think I found the toilet seat lid at the local Restar for like $5, and he helped me build a little box and put it over a free 5-gallon bucket. You can get 5-gallon buckets from most restaurants. A lot of food items come in them, and so they usually have a supply they're constantly getting rid of. So if you want some, I go check that out before you go to your Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever and buy them. But anyway, he helped me build this little one, and it's working out great as the toilet to have available when I'm at the new place. Now, this means that I've got a chance to, have lots of experience with my Nature's Head and some experience with having a bucket toilet. And my conclusion is, if I was starting over from day one right now, I would go with a bucket toilet in my tiny house from the start. Now, there's several reasons, and people have different personal preferences, different numbers of people in their households, different bathroom habits and issues, so this might not be the thing for everyone, but I think I would be actually as content as I am with my Nature's Head, and this is partly why I don't like the idea of doing any kind of sponsorships with companies, because what if I'd taken a sponsorship with Nature's Head and now I want to tell you this? They probably wouldn't be very happy with me. But anyway, I've always recommended them. I do think they're a really good commercial composting toilet. But I think, for quite a few reasons, that a simple bucket version is easier. The first big one is that there's a really obvious upside of that it costs, you know, depending if you know, what kind of toilet seat you get and how fancy you build a box around it, and if you got to buy the bucket or not, somewhere between like $5 and $25 versus about $1,000. That's a fairly significant difference. And if you're on a constrained budget at all, or if you can just think of something else you'd rather do with $900 something than buy a toilet, that could be a big deal right by itself for sure. Now, the other things I've noticed, with the Nature's Head, it does separate solids and liquids, so I empty the liquids now that I'm home more because I don't have an outside the house job on a regular schedule. I'd say I empty it about once a week. Before it was like 10-12 days, so I do empty the liquids a little more frequently, and the solids I actually empty a little more frequently as well, because if you're gone at work, obviously you're going to be using a bathroom somewhere else during the day, and so you are not going to use the one at your home as much. And being home pretty full-time now, that does go up. So I've gone from emptying my solids every 3 months or so to maybe every month and a half or so, something like that. Again, that's not a huge deal. It's just a difference with being here more and using it more. But while dumping the urine is not complicated, I've got a video on doing that. Dumping the solids is not complicated. There's just more moving parts to, I think, any commercial composting toilet, but a Nature's Head for sure. You've got the little lever for the trapdoor that opens and closes. You've got a little beater handle on the side that spins to help tumble up everything in the solids bin so it can compost. You've got the separate compartment for the liquids. You've got just several little lips and edges as the way it's formed to make the urine drain toward the front and solids toward the back and all that stuff. And over time, it's not hard to keep clean by any means. I mean, I've got a little spray bottle with some white vinegar and water. I keep it right beside the toilet. Every time I'm done using it, just give it a spritz down, stays nice and fresh. But you do get a little buildup of like a kind of like a hard mineral layer on there over time, which doesn't hurt anything. It just doesn't look very nice, and that may vary some depending on what kind of water you have and all of that. The biggest difference is when you have guests. It's not complicated to use. You sit down. If you're going to pee, you just pee, you wipe, you put it in the trash or open the trapdoor, drop it in. If you're going to poop, you open the trapdoor first, then poop. Everything, toilet paper, everything goes in there. Close the door, close the trapdoor, give it a spritz, and you're done. So it's not complicated, but it kind of freaks people out. Actually, I've been amused to notice that my male friends who have come over tend to be much more nervous about using it than the ladies who have come over, which I would have suspected would have been the other way around. But you do have to have a little explanation for people of this is what you do. With a bucket toilet, it's just really uncomplicated. You lift a toilet lid, you sit on a toilet seat, you do your business, everything goes in a hole, and then you empty it whenever it's full. Now, if you've got 10 people in your family or you're a single person, how often you're going to have to go dump your bucket is going to vary for sure. But if you're in a location where you're not moving all the time, which, even though I'm on wheels and plan to move eventually, it's not like I'm traveling every day, and you've got a place outside where you can continue composting your humanure, then I think that's just a simpler way to go. It's way less expensive. There's no other little parts or channels or anything to clean. If you do want to clean something, the only thing you got to clean is wipe off your toilet seat if you get something on there. Hopefully most of us adults are capable of using a bathroom without getting shit on the toilet seat. But then other than that, all there is a bucket. Once you dump it, you can clean the bucket, you can hose it off, you could bleach it, you can do whatever you want with that. And it's really simple. And if you're unfamiliar with a bucket composting toilet, you do your business, you take a scoop of sawdust, which you can usually get for free or very inexpensively from like a local cabinet shop or something like that. Cover it up and keep layering it up till your bucket's getting mostly full, and then you trade it out for a new bucket or go empty the bucket. It's really uncomplicated, really simple, and having used both now, there's not an odor with either one. I've not had a problem with that. And So, like I said, you know, if you're looking at composting toilets, the Nature's Head I still think is a really good commercial one. But if you want to save yourself $1,000 and in some ways have it be easier to explain to guests when they come over because you don't really have to explain anything, a little easier to dump, though certainly it's going to need dumped a little more frequently, so there'd be some personal preference there in which you prefer. I think just the bucket toilet is a really nice way to go. Now, little box I've got around my temporary one up there is nothing fancy. You can certainly build very nice areas for them to go in. I've seen some really nice ones where you've got the toilet seat and you've got a, you know, toilet paper holder built in, and a bucket with a lid on it built into the frame, you know, for the sawdust, all that kind of thing. But it really just is an easy way to go. And if you're new to the whole composting toilet thing, there's a really good book out there, the Humanure Handbook, all about using and recycling human waste, which is, I think, something everybody probably should learn something about, because at least in the developed world, we have a tendency to just flush a handle and pay no attention to where all that stuff or that water or anything goes. And if you think the whole idea of a composting toilet is super gross, I get that, and you're entitled to feel that way. But remember that if you live in like a city and you flush your turds down the toilet drain, it might actually be grosser, because what often happens in a lot of municipal systems is that water gets filtered out and filtered multiple times and bleached and disinfected and comes right back into your tap as drinking water later. So if you think the idea of composting your human waste back into dirt is really gross, you might want to rethink how you like your city water plumbing system. And not every single city is set up that way, but a lot of them are. So just some things to think about. In my perspective, after having used a Nature's Head composting toilet for more than 3 years and having used a bucket toilet some as well, if I was starting over from day one, right now, I would go with a bucket toilet personally. That gets my vote. Hopefully that's just some info that, you know, those are my personal opinions and experiences, but maybe gives you some information and some things to think about if you are contemplating what you want to do for your own situation. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're interested in more info on my off-grid tiny house life, check out some of my other videos here. And if you like what you're seeing, click the little picture of my house to subscribe, and then hit the little bell so YouTube actually notifies you every time there's a new video available. See y'all next time.